Hello and merry Monday or whatever. I've noticed in my videos that I get a lot of glare on my glasses, so I'm trying to fix that issue, but I'm not going to fanny about with it. Either it's fixed or it isn't, and I'll try in the next video if it is. Today I've decided to make a video about my top 5 current pet peeves, or things that irritate me. Lots of things irritate me, and if you watch my back catalogue videos you'll find out that lots of things irritate me. But these are currently my top 5 things that just sort of wind me up in movies and films, particularly. Obviously, they're going to be the biggest culprits. My first pet peeve, number 5. These are in order of how much they irritate me. So number 5 is the least irritating. So number 5 is the Lost paradox. And I have to all agree that in retrospect, Lost was a bit shit. Oh, now I was caught up in Lost as much as anybody else was. Couldn't, watch the pilot, was completely sucked in, couldn't get enough of it. Glued to the set for the first few seasons, slowly waning interest around season 4, and then I don't know when I stopped watching it, but at some point I just stopped watching it. I just didn't care anymore. I guess I just didn't occur to me to watch it. I wasn't like a conscious decision to say, well, this is crap. I just missed a few episodes and was like, just forgot about it. The problem that you have here is the mystery aspect. Now, it is really not difficult at all to write a mystery. Hey, there's a guy in a room. It's locked. There's no way in or out. How did he get there? There's a mystery for you. Figure that one out. He's concealed in this room. What's going on? That's the cube, I think I basically just described. But yeah, there's not that hard to write a mystery. It's very difficult to conclude a mystery in a satisfying way. I did a video a while back on twists, what makes a good twist. A mystery is sort of similar. It needs to be something the audience wants to be able to try and figure it out, but they don't want to actually figure it out. It's quite tricky, a mystery. So you always want to be capable, but then still be surprised. Similar to like a good twist. The audience wants to be able to think about it, but be surprised. But then when it's revealed, be like, it's so obvious now. That makes sense. Mystery, and Lost is the biggest culprit of this, probably by far. The writers have admitted that they had no idea where Lost was going when they started writing. And that's because they're shit writers. Now, I'm okay with you not knowing exactly where a story, as a writer, not knowing exactly where your story's going and, sort of morphing it along the way. But when you write something like that, a setup that is pure mystery, and you have no idea what's going to pay off, what's going to work, what's going to make sense, that's just stupid. And Lost just descended into nonsense. Like I say, I didn't care about it after a while. It was clear that it was going nowhere, especially since the writers admitted that it probably was going nowhere. But yeah, that's a problem. That's a really annoying. Anybody can write a question. The hard part is writing the answer. Number 4 is James Bond syndrome. Now, what I'm really talking about here is the male hero, the male protagonist, usually an action hero, who basically has no clue how to treat women. Now, I would not outright call myself a feminist. I'm all about equality, and I believe women should be treated equally in every aspect possible. The the everyday sexism things that you hear of men cat on the street and things baffle me. I think these men are fucking idiots that do these things. No real man gropes a woman on the subway or whatever. It's just ridiculous. These things shouldn't happen. I'm all for that, but I'm also aware that I am guilty of the sort of societally ingrained. I'm a product of my society. I'm not entirely free of sexist behaviour or opinions. I am relatively typical male in a lot of ways. I'd like not to be, but I wouldn't call myself, like I say, I wouldn't call myself an outright feminist for those reasons, because I don't think I am completely fair-minded myself. But as I was saying, it does wind me up to see in television and films male heroes who particularly can't hold down, can't look after their wife, or can't stop cheating on their wife. And it annoys me because it comes this kind of, because they're male fantasy characters, they're male empowerment characters, and it cements the idea that you can be a cool action save the day awesome guy, but it doesn't really matter if your wife hates you, or if you're cheating on your wife, or can't you don't really care about that women in your life or whatever, and that's doesn't work. That annoys me. That doesn't work for me. It's the idea that a character can be a strong male character or a strong male hero and just have that negative quality, just be shit to women. The cheating on the wife thing is a big thing. A lot of male action heroes have either cheated on their wives or dissatisfied their wives, or in some way are going through a divorce. Divorce seems to go hand in hand with most male action heroes. Just not sure why. Just why can't they hold on to their wives? It's not that complicated, is it? What is it? 50% of marriages end in divorce or whatever. But still, it's just these. That just is very. I think it's a negative element that they're adding to that male fantasy character that makes it seem like it's okay. Like it's okay. You can be it's okay to cheat on your wife. You can still be a strong, man who can punch out Hitler or whatever. It's just nonsense. It winds me up. The number 3 thing that currently winds me up in films, especially in films, probably TV. I can't think of a TV instance off the top of my head, but that's the Hannibal Lecter moment. We can all happily agree that Silence of the Lambs was a really good film. I'm glad we can agree that. And if you can't agree that, then you're wrong. And if you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, then see it. Why are you doing it? Why are you watching me? What the hell? I'm nobody. Go watch Silence of the Lambs now. Just do it. Do it! Okay, I'm not sure where that came from. But yes, Silence of the Lambs, great film. And the Hannibal Lecter prison cell scene, classic scene, iconic scene. It's just the peak. It's just one of those amazing scenes of all time that everyone knows. Even if you haven't seen the film, you know that scene. You've seen a parody of it somewhere. You've seen something about it somewhere. You know that scene. It's such an amazing scene, or every scene, even in that setup in that film. I am getting bored of seeing it in movies. So many films do the Hannibal Lecter moment. Get the prisoner, stick him in a cage, and so often it's a glass cage as well, just a big glass wall. There's not even they're not even trying to be original. And you get the prisoner there, the evil villain, and then someone has to talk to him, and it's this back and forth, and he's slightly smarter, and he's sort of manipulating their head, and he's just kind of he's like it's just the Hannibal Lecter moment, and it's just so annoying. The Avengers did it, Spyfall did it, and it's just so many. I'm sure I could list hundreds of films that do it, and it's stop doing it. You don't need. It's just stop it, please. It just annoys me to see it every time I see it. It's the one thing in the Avengers that probably really annoys me. And the Hannibal Lecter moment tightly ties in with my number 2, which has been talked about a lot by other sort of critics, and that's the villain wanted to be captured all along. I couldn't think of a clever name for this, but the villain who wants to be captured. His plan involved him being captured. It's always stupid. It never quite makes sense. I don't think I've ever seen a plot line of the villain wanted to be captured all along. I'm looking at my DVD collection now. That actually made sense. And I can't see anything. The Dark Knight is particularly grievous of this. It's a really dumb plan by the Joker of his wanting to get captured all along. It makes no sense. Spyfall, another example. Again, his plan made no real sense. The Avengers, you have to kind of buy into the idea that Loki's been manipulating almost everyone all along. But again, it's a very coincidental setup. That's the main problem with it. It always relies on a hell of a lot of coincidence or a hell of a lot of convenient movement, and you can't just predict all the villain. The idea that the villain predicts all of the hero's movements or every possible permutation, or everything goes exactly according to this stupid little plan that he had. And more often than not, okay, the problem with Avengers particularly is that it doesn't really work. It doesn't really make any sense why. Maybe the mechanics of the plan make sense, but the why of the plan doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you think that would help? And if you all you wanted to do was take out the helicarrier, then there's easier ways to do that, So yeah, I really can't think of a good example. There must be a good example. Please do post in the comments or whatever if you can think of watching this and you can think of a good example. But yeah, the villain wanted to be captured all along for some dumbass plan, and I like the concept, the idea of it, if it can be done well. I just can't think of a time it's ever been done well. Really can't think. Looking at my DVDs again. It's no good. But my number 1 and my most grievous, this is the naming of this is the reason why it's so hateful to me, and that's I'm calling this one the Doctor Who bullshit. Doctor Who is probably the biggest offender of this for me, and it's why I don't watch the show anymore. And it's the idea of a complex. I'm okay with for science fiction and fantasy. I love science fiction and fantasy, and creating new ideas and everything. But Doctor Who is particularly grievous for creating these complex, sci-fi setups, and then the Doctor solves the problem with a load of bullshit. And not necessarily bullshit that doesn't make sense. It's just a load of made-up crap. And you just think, okay, it makes sense perhaps in that world or in that situation that you've made up. This thing that you've made, this solution that you've made up makes sense for the problem that you've made up. But none of it actually makes any sense. He's not using logical scientific method, or he's not using his... He's not... Right, the idea of the Doctor is that he is smarter than everyone. I believe in the original series he's actually quite a stupid Time Lord. He's relatively considered not a very clever Time Lord. But he's obviously smarter than the human beings and other alien races that he meets. However, there's very little evidence of that, because all he ever spouts, or all his knowledge ever comes to, is him knowing a load of nonsensical bullshit that only makes sense within that world. He doesn't seem to know all that much about science or history. I think there are several historical inaccuracies in Doctor. I'm not complaining about historical inaccuracies, but for a guy who's kind of supposed to know everything, which is kind of his thing, he just doesn't seem to know a lot of actually anything. And so frequently in Doctor Who they drop on this element of bullshit to explain everything or to solve everything, and it's just got too much for me after a while. I just couldn't be bothered to keep up with that. I just well, yeah, there's this nonsense, but I'm sure you'll find some other nonsense to fix it by the end of the episode. Woohoo! It's just there's always nonsense on top of nonsense. I just how do you root for nonsense? I mean, there's a non-stop pile of nonsense. How do you get excited or engaged in that? How do you get engaged in nonsense? That's what I'm saying here. There are certainly tons of other offenders of this. I'll drop back to the Dark Knight with his the fingerprint on the shattered bullet, which is so dumb. I just watch that. I don't know anything about like CSI forensic stuff, but I am almost 100% sure that is not even vaguely possible to do that. I don't know what that was. Solving a problem or with science bullshit, or just any old bullshit really, that winds me up, because it's just too lazy to do research really. It's just kind of all too lazy to actually know anything. Just make stuff up. And it can work in a science fiction fantasy setting, but when you become too reliant on it, it just doesn't work for me. It's just too much. It's just lazy writing, in my opinion. So that's my number one. Easy. So it's my top 5 things that wind me up, annoy me, my pet peeves currently in film and television. I'd love to hear yours. I don't normally interact with the audience, which is probably most people do. I'm just selfish like that. But yes, no, I'd love to hear yours. Post in the comments below things that piss you off, or examples of the ones I've already mentioned, or video responses if you're friends of mine, or the people I know who video blog as well. Things that wind you up, or your biggest pet peeve in film, television, books, theatre, whatever. Yes, I'd love to hear. Find me on Twitter, find the One Bearded Man on Facebook, subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos, do all these things that I keep forgetting to say at the end of my videos that you can do, and have a good week. And I will see you probably tomorrow, or Wednesday. I'll post another video. Probably actually Wednesday's more likely because I'm busy tomorrow. But yes, thank you for watching. The end.